Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. This one filmed at a time with the beginning of the new year 2023, but it's a timeless reading, so if you come to this at some later time, it's the right time for you to come to it, so don't worry that it's caught to that. But with the new year always comes the idea of the new you, the new pathway and so forth. And I felt called to do this reading for this time because I think the last few years in this world have been challenging, and there's been a lot of change and a lot of different sort of pressures economically, politically, pretty much everything on top of whatever you're doing for your personal life, your spiritual development and so forth. So I wanted to channel into the divine, for the divine in a sense, to give you some applause and some props for how far you've come, what you've dealt with, any shadows that you've released, any new beautiful energy you've brought in. And then to look at what that could do to create the new you, for your new direction, your new path, a new sort of lease on life in a sense after these interesting times that we've all been experiencing. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to ask firstly for the divine in a sense to give you applause and acknowledgement and recognition for how far you've come, and then give some idea about what to focus on for your highest good going forward. And we'll look at what you're going to take with you from the past, what you'll release, what you're about to manifest, that sort of thing. So in order to find the right pile, and of course you can go to more than one, there might be a number of elements and new parts of you that go across more than one reading, putting down the numbers as always for people who like that. But I shuffled and asked the divine for each pile to give me a card from the Life Soul Vision Oracle for part of the energy around this. And it's going to be almost a kind of a governing, almost a gateway between the past and the future. So this will be part of the reading, but it's the only card from this particular deck I'm using. There will be other cards and in other decks to actually start to look at what this is sort of the overarching energy for. But it'll give you a bit of a sense of part of the reading. I don't know, there's some pre-intuitively chosen cards for that's the sort of like the setting of the scene of this under this card. I don't know what they are, so I don't know how these energies will manifest. But for pile one, there is something about the Queen of Fire, the sacred inner flame associated with the new you. For pile two, there's the Queen of Earth, so nature's blessing, nature's bounty. And for pile three, the soul star energy, so the conscious connection, the highest chakra, the chakra that connects to the divine. So those are going to be part of this. So that may help you choose if you feel particularly drawn to one of those energies. But as I say, if you feel drawn to more than one, by all means go to more than one. As always, the timestamps are in the description box below. So when you know what reading or readings you want to go to, I'll see you there. Welcome pile one to your reading. So we have the Queen of Fire, as I say, as a kind of a bridge between the past and what you're moving into. This represents past energies that the divine wants to applaud you for and recognize you for, that will then lead to some cards here to show what the new you or the next step of this is emerging. And right out from the gate, you guys have definitely gone through some big changes in the last year or two, with the shadow energies here being around major change, which at the end of the world, an important end, a new beginning, lots of changes have occurred around you, definitely. Now, it's a bit like having the Tower card. So many of you will probably have experienced Tower moments where things have fallen apart or changed dramatically. Generally speaking, the more that you go with the flow with those, the better. But they were changes ultimately that were meant to bring out more of your creativity and bring you out from maybe behind the scenes a bit in some way. So there's a significant personal change, but it's often also political or economic or something like that. So I would say that many of you may have had changes that have occurred as a result of things like the pandemic and economic changes in the world, where maybe you shifted jobs, maybe you thought about doing things more creatively, maybe you started to have a sense of what your role might be in a changing world. And the divine here wants to say, yes, it's a really big tick. You handled this energy really, really well. Really, really well. And it was a struggle for you because you're meant to be seen more. This is the Queen of Fire. I mean, like the shine card here, there's sort of like the beautiful energy that's come in through facing these changes. This is about you really starting to understand who you are, self-actualizing, what power you really have, creatively, personally, charismatically, all of those things. But it was necessary to almost have a crisis for you to really see this, because with Nautilus Princess, this is powerful personal growth where you've kind of probably put your light under a bushel a bit. You've probably kind of tried to hide away a bit, but you're actually meant to, and you are birthing something new in yourself and in others. And so there's a real sense of coming out from behind the scenes, taking on more of a role of responsibility. It could, for some of you, literally have been starting a family, falling in love, having major changes personally, understanding a sort of role for you as a parent in some way, taking on the nurturing role, and realizing that there's a focus beyond just you're being behind the scenes, but for many this is going to have been sort of like a career change, a creative change, something like that. And with the Queen of Fire, this is meant to have lit a spark for you to shine and for you to nurture more and create more. So there's a very, very strong creative energy, and so the divine is saying, you know what, you did so well, part one. Whatever this was, whatever the challenges were, even if you don't feel like the journey is done yet, because in a sense it isn't. I mean, even with the Sacred Mother here, this is about the seeds of the creation. What has happened over the last year or two, the changes that you've gone through to really bring out your shine, your passion, your creativity, your sense of self. You really only just started this journey, and this, I think the next step, which we're going to look at next, is going to show what it is, how you can develop further, how you can even more manifest self-actualized energy. I always think the Queen of Fire is like the Queen of Wands in tarot, and to me that is the quintessential self-actualized person, the person who understands, who carries their shadow and understands their shadow. So you're a person who, if you really had your choice, you'd probably stay a bit behind the scenes, but you've had a calling in some sense. And whether it's to do something creatively, whether it's around relationship and family and setting up a legacy and a lineage in some way, or whether it's something political or economic or something, there's been something, and something did trigger it. Like it was dramatic, but Spirit just wants to tell you, you did brilliantly. And that, you may find at various points, if you feel more like withdrawing, you can withdraw, but this is your time to shine. This is your time to understand who you're meant to be and what you could create and what you could bring into being. So straight out of the gate, you've been through a lot, but you've done brilliantly. And the divine wants you to know that. And they know that it was hard. It was not like, you're sort of someone who's very charismatic, but you're not even interested in being watched particularly, but it happens naturally. It's happening more and more. You've risen to the occasion, whatever this was, and you're starting to create something new. So let's have a look at what this is creating into. We have turquoise, direction, point and purpose, burgundy, ambition, respect. Yeah, you're starting to understand who you can be. And the way it's playing out, a lot of it's around career with the 6th house, and how you communicate with the world. Okay, so you've been through, as I say, some major change. I think for most of you, some of you, it could be around, as I say, starting a family, love, all that kind of thing. But I think for most of you, this is around career, or it's now tilting towards career. This is why this card has come up. You've had to sort of face that shadow of not necessarily wanting to be the leader, but you have a calling to do this. You now have a direction, a point, a purpose. Something in what you've gone through has made you realize something has to change in your life. And I think for most of you, it is around your career. It's like you need to step up and become more seen. You need to shift jobs to somewhere where you're actually more at the forefront. You have something to lead others with, and you actually have this ability. Turquoise there is a bit like the throat chakra, and that fits with Mercury. Your way of communication is very, very powerful. You speak with charisma and gravitas. The charisma comes from your natural sort of like creative energy, that fiery energy, but the gravitas comes from what you've been through. It's like when you speak about these things, you come from experience, and people see that and they listen. And this is going to awaken an ambition in you. You're meant to do that. You've really underestimated what you could do. Your powers of communication in particular are really on point. If you're creating something like writing or something like that, that's excellent. That's extremely good. But it's like you have to dedicate to it as a service to others, or do it through your career. So those are the choices. It can be through routines in general, but I really think it's either in service to others in something that's outside of like the political, occupational, work environment, or it is in the work environment. But you are meant to be stepping up. The new you needs to reawaken an ambition and understand that you have a direction and a point that other people want from you, that you can bring something to this that other people can't. So But Spirit says you've got to really understand how brilliantly you dealt with challenge. That will give you the confidence to move forward and do this. So that's pretty good straight out of the gate. I'm not really surprised with the Queen of Fire there. As I say, it is to me the sort of ultimate self-actualized person. So let's have a look with tarot. So firstly, we're going to ask, what are you bringing with you from the former time? What are you going to continue to bring forward? Strength reversed, Two of Swords reversed, Six of Swords, direction, Ten of Pentacles, Page of Cups. Okay. An understated strength. This is interesting. So Spirit is saying that you are meant to be ambitious, you are meant to step up, you have everything you need, you will have the gravitas. But it is almost as though you might have a choice between being a kind of figurehead around what you're doing and being seen, and it's very much about almost cult of personality, and the choice of having the gravitas of helping others to find direction, and that kind of thing, and being in service to others. What you're being asked to bring forward from what you've experienced is that sense of knowing your strength but not needing to show it too much, and the strength therefore to help and let other people make a decision. So it feels as though if you were going into a management position, it would be being a servant leader. A servant leader exists to help the team, not to tell the team what to do. This has a very coaching and mentoring feeling to it. So again, that gravitas, where you are your level of ability and creativity and what you can do and the knowledge that you bring does actually take you forward, but you focus on the other person and not telling them what to do, helping them work out what to do, helping them find direction. Very much likely to make you quite a lot of money or make you feel very secure. The only thing, though, that I think that Spirit might be saying is to be careful of, I feel like this is a careful thing, is that make sure when you're doing this that it is something that you love to do. Because I feel like this becomes very much your sort of template for what you move forward. And I think this is saying you do have a tendency to be a little bit about the other person more than yourself. So I think it's just a hint in what you should take also forward from this. It's not just learning what you're capable of, but it's also learning and starting to articulate what you love. Because I feel as though maybe there could be a sense where you have a mission almost because you've been through this and you maybe neglect yourself a bit. So I think it is important I think that's more in taking this energy forward to understand the learning of that time for yourself. Okay, so what will we ask, given that, what are you releasing from the time that has preceded this? Four of Pentacles, Seven of Pentacles reversed, Eight of Wands, Two of Wands, Six of Pentacles. Okay, there's a very big change around material things for you. I think it's already happened. I think it's releasing. This is saying that there was a situation, and probably for most of you it was around work in some way, where the center could not hold, as the poet would have it, like where a foundation had to be let go of because it was no longer serving. So this is a very good change. It probably felt tumultuous, but it's a very good change. It released you, and it is meant to release you. You're not meant to be within something that isn't working anymore. So that's to be released. And you had an inspiration in this time, but it's time now to share that with others. So it's like releasing this as very much there's almost a sense of stoicism about you. And the first thing, you've kind of been through it. You've got your stripes. You've really sort of shown who you are. As I say, that Spirit and the divine is very, very proud of what you've done there. But there were sort of things where there's something about the material world that you are meant to release yourself from, old commitments, things that didn't work. So do understand what happened. Do understand why the Tower energy, in a sense, had to come. And do understand what that means in terms of freeing you to do what it is that you're meant to do. Don't carry this with you. This was meant to happen so you would learn something about yourself. It was not meant to happen to make you doubt yourself, pile one. So what will you manifest now? Justice. Wow. Okay. Ace of Wands. Creative energy. Beautiful. Eight of Cups reversed. Ten of Cups reversed. Knight of Wands. Okay. So a lot about creativity here. Doesn't surprise me with the Queen of Fire and with the shine energy. For some of you, this is very much a creative journey. You may travel, you may move home, any of those things. There might be sort of something around that, but there's a new beginning creatively, definitely, that you're meant to bring in. You're not meant to carry the things of the past. You're meant to bring it in. You're manifesting a release from emotional energy that didn't work and that was a bit over the top. I feel like many of you were in very, very volatile work environments, so you're manifesting a release energy from that and bringing things to justice. This is the gravitas that you have shown yourself. And as I say, as a leader or moving forward, you have shown yourself as being just, as being, as understanding what's doing, as being able to stay calm in the storm and help others from a kind of almost self-effacing position. You know, you weren't sort of someone in the workplace or wherever this was sort of wanting to say, look at me, but you came up to the cause. And as such, you now, there's something about balance and justice and new creative energy and movement coming in, letting go of the past. Very good mentoring, very good coaching, very good change management sort of energy around you. That's who you're developing into, this incredibly good communicator who can help people have direction and purpose, who brings things into balance, who is stepping into your power in a way that is valid for you, but is also in service to others. Okay, really lovely energy, pole one, I have to say. So let's get you some spiritual supports for that. So I want to actually almost use a kind of a prototype. It's a little bit shamanic because of the change energy, the new you know, all that kind of development. It's not meant to be full on shamanic, but I'm calling upon energies from what might be the lower world, or the world where we find your power animals, then the middle world, and then, which is sort of like all the kind of different entities and energies and stuff that we see in mythology, and then the upper realms. So I'm using the Divine Animals Oracle first to get you power animals, then I'll use the Deep, Dark and Dangerous to look at the middle world, and then I will use the Archangel Fire Oracle to look at angelic energy. So this is all to support you in creating this new you. So firstly, from the lower world, your power animal team, we have honeybee, reciprocity. Yeah, this is the energy that's around you, and getting things to be shared better than they were, getting a better balance and working with others. You will be working with others or in service to others. This is connected to others and community in some way, or work organisation, that sort of thing. But this will help you keep that balance. You're going to lead more than you have, but it will allow you to do it in a very balanced and fair way and a just way. And hyena, fear, helping people deal with fears. And you may have some fears. I think this is why the divine wanted to say to you, understand that, yeah, it was uncomfortable, and it may even be a bit uncomfortable going forward. You're sort of, you know, the sort of person who doesn't want power for power's sake or anything like that, but you are moving into more power because you have the right message and the right energy. And as I say, the connection of actual natural charisma with gravitas, but it's not, it's almost because you don't want it. But I think you help other people deal with fear, and you're going to help other people transition as well through this change. You become an example of it, of how you weather the storm and how collectively and together one weathers the storm, rather than sort of feeling alone and sort of in fear. So then let's also get one. We're just going to get one energy from the middle world, because these energies can be a little bit tricky sometimes. So just sort of see what energy is around also to help you from that layer. Anubis, respect. Oh, wow, yeah. You do command respect, and you deserve to command respect. And you will more and more do this the more that you move into who the new you is, because you are just, and because you didn't want power, you have power anyway. Anubis is the Egyptian god of the dead, and connects with Ma'at to bring injustice, to look at what is the life well lived, the good life in that sense. So I think this is all about bringing that energy in for you, and making sure you know that you can respect your choices and they come from the right place, and this amazing respect that you're going to command from other people. Then let's get you an energy from the archangels, or a couple of archangels around you as well. Haniel, oh, that's lovely. And Jophiel, oh, they're both lovely. So Haniel, you know, is bringing you a sort of sense of spiritual enlightenment, very, very strong intuition. She's connected to the moon, and so connected to sort of prophecy and divination and all those sort of things. She's bringing in that sort of sense of intuition and a very strong divine feminine. So again, it's not surprising it was the Queen card that came out for this deck. So a sense of passion, creativity, very much aligned really to the Queen of Fire, very similar sort of energy. And Jophiel is about bringing joy. So I think that the divine is saying, look, you know what? You went through a lot and you came through with flying colours, pile one, like absolutely knocked it out of the park. This is time now for you to connect to joy and to let go of what was painful. You don't have to carry it. Jophiel, her sort of yellow golden light helps to sort of free that energy. So this card talks about imagining the sort of golden light of the sun, the golden light of Jophiel coming into your life, clearing out energies that you no longer want to carry. So you don't have to carry the burden of the past. You've proved yourself. You're now meant to go and create and almost speak into being the future in a way that's more balanced and more intuitive and more divine feminine in a way. So that's lovely. So now I want to actually look at alchemizing this. So once we've done, we're looking at alchemizing the energy. So we're going to look at a alchemy for the past and then for the future that you're moving into, after which we'll have a look at what the stars and numerology have to say. So for the past, the alchemy energy around the new you emerging, the foundation of the new you. Blood, okay, and for the future, the new you. 10, okay, there's a warning there for you. This tells me that you alchemize at a very bodily level. When this had something, this, like, to me, blood, it's the life force. It's like on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, at foundational level, or the root chakra, all of those sort of energies. I think that whatever happened, you were very close to something that would have been worrisome, losing a job, losing a place to live, losing key people. I think you came through it and you were fine. You might have suffered some setbacks, but you came through it stronger. But this is about understanding the vital energy of the life force and how this awakened who you were. So it is using it in the most positive way, but it says to me on almost a bodily level, there was something very fundamental about this. And again, Spirit wants to say, the divine wants to say, well done, well done. You use the blood energy really, really well. But there's a risk in now understanding who you are and going forward. And it's only that it's a risk. This is something that the divine wants you to understand. Because you are moving from maybe being a little bit more behind the scenes or a little bit more self-effacing, your charisma and your gravitas are marrying together and you're moving into some sort of leadership role, whether it's literal or whether it's just that you're an influencer or whatever it might be, and you're going to command all this respect. With that comes a lot of demands from other people. Tin is very interesting as an alchemical ingredient because it spreads very, very far. We think of alfoil and how it sort of can cover sort of like, foodstuffs and things like that. We can spread it very far, but that's the issue. The further it spreads, the more fragile it can get. So we have the Jupiter energy here, which is about expansion. And Jupiter is wonderful. It's kind, it's benefic, it's benevolent, it expands. There's much expansion for you. But you do have to make sure you don't spread yourself too thin. So that is one of the things, and I think this is also about like making sure that this is joyous to you. So the divine wants to say, you do so well, but this doesn't mean you have to run on empty all the time. It's important to give yourself time out. It's important to focus on what will be the best for what you want to do, not trying to be all things to all people, pile one. Okay, so let's see how the stars or numerology can guide you in moving into this new you. Void, of course. Okay. This is saying right now, you may be in the kind of point between the two, or you may still be dealing with the aftershocks of what happened, where you're thinking like, wow, Helen, I know you're saying all this, but I don't even have the first clue what I would do. The void, of course, is just allow yourself to rest a bit because it is going to become clear. It will become clearer to you. And I think other people are going to come to you and like positions of power or opportunities are going to come to you. So just rest. I think this is just rest at first. More will become clear in time. the square. You are going to feel a little bit uncomfortable with this because I just think that you prefer to be a little bit behind the scenes, but you're not meant to be behind the scenes. We'll have a look at the planets associated with that, but first I just want to get one other card. Conjunction, and you will have people around you who have the right connection, and you will find the right connection. So there will be, it's both that there's going to be tension and moving forward and you adjusting to this, but there's also this will bring in a significant relationship if you're not in one already, or there's going to be good partnerships. But let's have a look at the planetary energy around those two aspects. So just deal out till I get planets. It could take a little while because there's a lot of cards in this deck. Well, firstly, Sun. So your life path. Whether you're comfortable entirely with this is your life path. And Mars, yeah, and it is in the workplace, and it is in action, and it is in being a bit more ambitious. It's just not your nature, but in the sense that I think that you feel a little bit kind of like, oh, I don't want power, but it's the person who doesn't want power who's most suited to have it, to be frank. Okay, so let's see conjunction. What energies work well for you? Quite apart from, whether it brings in a relationship, what sort of connection? Oh, Mercury again. Your communication skills are off the charts. Really, really good. And that combines with Venus, what you love, what you care about, and the divine feminine sort of aspects. So the divine feminine, as I say, is important to you. It's that kind of nurturing. It's that the sacred mother. It's shining. It's the queen of fire. Trust in your capacity to speak beautifully in some way, or sing beautifully for some of you. It might be if it's a very creative thing that you're moving into and you're suddenly sort of coming out from behind the scenes, coming out from being in the chorus in a theatrical production to being the lead sort of singer, for instance, like who knows. But there's certainly that kind of energy around it. There is a beautiful way in which you communicate that's really going to help you, but you need to sort of awaken this ambition. You're meant to have it. Okay, so last but not least, just want to draw a card from the Divine Circus Oracle, and it's meant to give a sense of the narrative arc going forward with this. So this could be a great blessing, or it could be part of a challenge, and it could be something to be aware of. It could be either, but let's just sort of see almost the next step on a narrative arc for the new you, pile 1. White Duchess. That's really interesting because it's almost where we're seeing here again what the divine wants to congratulate you for. There's a very strong kind of like energetic connection between the witch at the end of the world and the White Duchess. The White Duchess comes up when there's a significant transition that has been tempestuous. It is about letting go and leaving behind that which no longer serves you so that you can become who you are. So it's really, again, like whoever's come to this reading, if you've come to the right reading, you have been through a lot, but you have done so well. And all you really need to do now is know that there are things you learnt from that you take forward to create something different, but you will not recreate the past. If there is any fear that you're going to go through it again and again, that you're kind of doomed to do this, that's not the case at all. You've passed the test. You're ready to move to the next level, and taking your particular qualities into whatever this is, as I say, whether it's career, I think for many of you it is career, community work, love, whatever it might be, you are going to start to establish with the beauty of how you can communicate and with understanding your true life purpose and ambition, something that is so different that it's not going to repeat. So look forward with optimism. You have been through a lot, but you passed the test, pile 1. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. So you came to the reading that had the Queen of Earth, Nature's Blessing. So that to me is very much like the Queen of Pentacles. I feel like there's a bridging energy around all of this about what you can materialize, what you can have within the sort of material world. So it could be, I think that for much of this might be around relationship, given some of the cards here in what you're sort of coming through, what you're passing through to go to the new you. So for some of you, this may be about a relationship that you want to commit to, or making decisions about what type of relationship you would want to commit to. It could be about starting a family. It could be about any of those sort of things with the Queen of Earth as the sort of like thing. It's the pivotal thing between what you're coming from and what you're going to. But when we look at what you've just been going through and what the divine wants to congratulate you for and tell you, you know, how you've sort of progressed with that so that you're ready for the next stage, I do feel for many of you this is going to have been around a love relationship. So there's been, I would say, or you are in at the moment, a relationship that may feel strange, different. It may be that it was someone who was very different to your cultural background or to the norm that you were with, or it could just be something odd about it. And it's sort of like it never quite lands and manifests and commits, or, you know, it could be sort of something that's on another order, like a twin flame or a soul connection. So it feels strange and very mystical, because there's a very mystical vibrational energy around this. We've got the guardian energy. So there's a sense of either you are, this has been brought to you by a spirit guide because you're on threshold of progress, as this says, and this is really part of it, and it is about manifesting this in. Or it may be that you have been around love that is strange and not right for you, and you're almost having blocks because you need to have blocks. So it will be interesting to see what you step into. But in either case, the divine is saying it hasn't been easy. With Candy Cane Angel here, it's time for a treat. It's like it has been hard. It's time you kind of come to a realization that you need to look after you, which is connected to a vibrational shift of knowing that even if this is a significant relationship you're supposed to be in, whatever the things that have made it difficult, you're going to need to kind of, and you have understood, and Spirit is really congratulating you for doing this, understanding that you need to keep your vibrational energy high even when it's difficult. So I think for most of you, as I say, there's a relationship that's been difficult in some way. It's probably a love relationship, but it could be a friendship. It could be sort of something within the family with the Queen of Earth. Could even be a workmate with Earth as well. But this feels much more with Valentine, strange Valentine, as though this is around you have been dealing with a complex and strange relationship. And I think one of the things that will be interesting to see is whether you are meant to move forward with this, or whether you're meant to have learnt certain lessons that the divine is saying that's brilliant. You really did understand. You've come to this understanding that you've got to put you first if it's a relationship where in fact you've been guarded against without even realizing that was going on. Makes me think of that saying, rejection is protection. Sometimes that could be the case, but it's not going to be the case for everybody necessarily, and we will see how it develops. But Spirit certainly wants to say you've done really well with this. You deserve to sort of like focus on yourself now. You're the sort of person who, when you love and when you commit, you do it very deeply. But the question will be, is this the right one? If it is, then congratulate yourself, give yourself a treat. It might be a little bit tricky on the long haul, but you'll get there. If it isn't, then this is a protection to bring in something better. So let's see what you're developing towards. Forest, elementals, fairies, magic. Yeah, there's something about the forest with you. Very fey energy around you. Ivory, charm, finesse, poise. Oh, that's interesting. And the sort of aspects of life, Pisces. And the seventh house is, yeah, this is definitely about relationship. Okay, so it's going to be read a few ways, and I think it's going to depend on who's coming to this. There is certainly the prospect that this relationship is strange because it is very, very psychic, very spiritual. That is possible. In fact, it's possible to go either way on this, to be honest. We'll see what the tarot says, because it could be that it is very legitimately that way. It is what makes it seem heightened, huge telepathy, huge synchronicities, all those sort of things, being watched over by your spirit team, your significant other or hoped for significant other's spirit team. All of that could be the case with Forest there and with Pisces. Very, very strong psychic connection, whatever happens. But Forest here, because elemental, fairies, magic, the fae can be wonderful, but they can also be tricksters. So I think it is going to kind of depend. For some of you, this may be that you're being guided towards something that is more suitable to you because there's been a trickster energy around. But for others of you, there's something very, very psychic about this. What is interesting is I firmly believe you are moving towards a sort of established relationship, whether it's this one or another one with Ivory. And I feel like it's one where you feel completely at home and where you feel elevated by it. So I think one of the questions when you commit is this energy making you feel elevated? Are you feeling like you're moving up to queendom? It doesn't have to be male or female. This is just that kind of energy. Are you feeling like this is sort of like the starting of a dynasty? For some of you, the strangeness may well be that you've come across someone who's at a very different social level. And if that's the case, I suspect one that's higher, and there is the real possibility of moving up, but you've got to kind of get yourself understanding you deserve that treat. But I think that's the question. If this energy makes you feel like you're elevating towards something that you would want to commit to, then this energy is about, like, it's going to be maybe a bit tricky because it's very, very psychic and it's very intense, but you are heading in the right direction for that. If it doesn't, it's like freeing yourself from that so that you can bring in what you're meant to, because you're meant to have more of a treat. You're meant to be higher vibration. So I think it may be that it depends on who's coming to the reading. We'll see whether tarot gives us any more of an idea. So we're going to ask firstly, what are you bringing with you from this time? So that may help answer this, actually. Are you bringing this person, or are you just bringing an understanding of what your worth is from this time? So what are you bringing from the past into the future? Nine of Swords, Tribulation, oh my goodness, Page of Cups, King of Cups reversed, Five of Cups reversed. I have to say, I think this is a little bit of a warning for you, Pile 2. I think the divine, thinks you've done brilliantly with this, but I think that for most of you, there might be something that you are trying to be protected against. So I think that the divine is saying that you get so committed, and it's a beautiful and lovely thing, and you are meant to be in that, but you may be bringing forward something that isn't going to provide you that. So I think it may be really think about this relationship. Your heart is there. Your heart is so open. There is something about this relationship that fits the profile that you want. But there is, if you are moving forward with this, and if you are meant to, you're going to have to heal this person, honestly. And maybe you will make the decision to do it because you think, you know what, ultimately I will get there. And I know how to kind of like clear my own energy, but you're going to need to do that if you're doing it, because there's sort of anxiety and tribulation coming with this. And this person, coming up as the King of Cups reverse, and again, it's not about gender, has a lot of wounds that need to be healed. There is the capacity to do it if you make that decision, but I think you have to make the decision about, is this what you would really want to commit to? Is this the long-term thing? Because if it is, I think Spirit is saying, you've got to, some of what you've learned about how to keep yourself high vibrational with it, how to kind of give yourself a treat when you need to, you're going to continue to need to take that forward, because at the moment, it's not an easy connection. Okay, all right. So let's see what you're releasing. Doesn't mean it's the wrong connection, but it's just not easy. So again, it comes down to, is this what you would really want to commit to long term? You've got to make that decision, because otherwise you're kind of just bringing it in almost because you have such an open heart and you care for the person. So what does the divine suggest you release so that you can move more into this? Oracle, Three of Cups, Nine of Wands, the Emperor, Four of Swords. Okay, so there are certain relationships, and I often call them tower relationships, that are very intense. They're very spiritually intense, and they can be wonderful, but they can be also very difficult. And they feel like prophecy. They feel like synchronicities. They're absolutely replete with them. I think if you've come to the right reading, there is a relationship around you that is like that. Feels like a twin flame. Feels like all of that. What Spirit is saying is that even if that was the case, you need to almost let go of that concept to see whether it has legs on its own. Because there are, I think, times where you can have all of those things and it's almost with a false twin flame or a false soul twin. And there's all sorts of theories about why that happens, and I'm not sort of going to go into them in detail now. But there is a warning here about, it's almost like you've mythologized this relationship. And it could be accurate, but it's almost like while you live into the mythology, you don't see whether or not it's something that you should go forward with. You give it so much power that your own understanding sort of like is limited. It's kind of like you have to be the queen, keeping the home fires burning, not the emperor. Like there's something, you give away some of your sovereignty for this. And again, it could be okay, but while you mythologize it, while you go, well, we have all these psychic telepathy, so it must be, and this must be it, and and there is, some people in the twin flame community say that twin flames coming together is, for the higher vibrational good of the universe. So there's almost like it's a sense of like, well, this is part of my mission if you feel something like that. I'm not saying here, and I don't think the divine is saying here, because it's going to be very different for who comes here, that it isn't that, but it's saying that you need to let go of the idea of that, because it's overpowering your choice, and you need to work out whether this is really the person you would want to commit to. Wow, okay. So what can you manifest now if you let go of some of the sort of almost spiritual hyperbole around it, regardless of whether it's true or not? Regardless of whether it's true or not, but you actually kind of almost bring back things to first principles. What can you manifest? Moon reversed. Two of Pentacles reversed. Death reversed. Ace of Cups reversed. Three of Swords. Okay. All right. So again, it's going to depend on who's come to this. The very least, what you do if you start to let go of that sort of sense of imperative that feels like the very strangeness and sort of psychic level of this means it has to be, and you actually still allow that you have choice, is that you start to get the information that you need to make the choice, because you're not sort of like living into a spiritual concept. You're just looking at what happens, and it allows you a bit of time to make the choice. I feel like most of you feel like you're in a hurry, like you have to make this decision, like there's an imperative around it. But in fact, by starting to think about what your long-term choice is, rather than feeling that you're at the whim of a universe that's deciding that you have to be with this person or something, you actually have the choice, but it feels like you don't. Or maybe the other person's making you feel like you don't. But what you can manifest if you stop living into it being so major, and as I say, it may well be, but it's living into it that's stopping you have a choice. So that's the point. So I'm not saying to anybody here who strongly feels they're in a twin flame that you're not. You could very well be, but it's almost that concept is getting in the way. If you can release that energy, what you can manifest is giving yourself time to make the choice and working out, is this really what I want to love? Or do I walk away from it? That's the choice. You need to define what that really means to you. Then you can decide, because if that is what you want, then you're not going to walk away from it. You'll deal with whatever difficulties and so forth. But if you don't, then you are going to walk away from it, because you're going to know that maybe it was a myth rather than reality. So very interesting. So the divine thinks that you're dealing with a lot, and they do want to congratulate you for that. And they want to say, you're very psychic, you're very tuned in, all of those things. But that can be its own problem. So you need to kind of let up on yourself a bit, not feel like you have to solve the universe's problems. You really should be, what you are meant to be is, what could I genuinely commit to? What would make me feel that I had charm, finesse, poise, that I was living the life that I'm meant to live? That's really important. Okay, so let's get you some spirit energy around this. So I'm using almost a kind of like shamanic metaphor here, and I'm looking at sort of the lower world where you find your power animals. I'm looking at the middle world where there's sort of like entities and energies that, like the Fae, like all of that kind of thing. And then also the upper world with archangels, just to sort of see what energy is around you to help with doing this, pile two. So from the lower world, power animals for you. The chameleon, change. So that's an interesting energy to come with this. It may be saying it's not that you've got to change the relationship. You've just got to change how you're approaching the relationship. And you may have to, as I say, if you demythologize it and get back to like, how do we enjoy this? Then you may really be able to see what's going on. Chameleon can probably help you with that. Almost like trying on for size whether it's going to fit where you really want to go. And we have butterfly, the soul. Yeah, the soul is what is important here. Your soul is just as important as this other person. It could be for some a confirmation that this is a twin flame. It could be. Or it could be that you need to transform into what you need. That's the only way that you're going to be able to know. So it really depends. And it's almost like you have to wear some masks and be a bit of a chameleon to find the information out. So you have to step away from the kind of spiritual imperative of this and kind of almost try things out to see whether it feels real in some way. And there's something about, where how you've actually given yourself a treat sometimes to deal with the pressure. There's something in that can probably help you. Okay, let's see what energy is around you in the middle world. because this might give us a bit of a sense about whether or not there's sort of anything that's a problem around this, or whether, you know, you're being guided and guarded in this relationship. Sybil, foresight. Okay, that's good. Your intuition is going to be pretty on point for this. If you just allow yourself to think of it through the prism of you, then you'll be able to work out, because it's like, I think it's because you do have oracular ability, you do have psychic ability, you put a lot of store by that. But it may be that, as I say, you've taken certain things and thought that they were more than they were, or you've put too much emphasis on that and not enough emphasis on what you are. So I think Sybil will help you get the foresight for what are the actual implications, what are the material implications of these choices. Because I think you're meant to be in a long-term relationship committed. And if this is one that is incredibly powerful, but it's just not going to happen, then you can see that coming. It's sort of like, instead of living into a viewpoint that it must be at all costs, it's like, is it really what you want this time? I think that's the question. Let's see what archangel energy is around you. Pile 2. Gabriel, yeah, prophecy, right. And Barachiel. Okay. This is a really good distillation of the two energies that you're trying to balance here. Barachiel is very much like the Queen of Earth. She is about like good family, good home, good prosperity. She is here to help you do that and to work out what you would want to commit to. She is saying that you are meant to be in this sort of very stable, loving, high value relationship. She's here to sort of support that. And if this is it, to help you do it. But if not, she is meant to sort of guide you towards making a choice that is for you. Gabriel, like Sybil, is prophecy. So I think like connecting to Gabriel, connecting to the cycles of the moon, all of that sort of thing, there is information. When you step away from the mythology, and as I say, it may eventually prove to be the case. So I'm not meaning mythology is not being true, but when you step away from the imperative that you've put on yourself about this, and you just wait to see what information comes through, you don't make decisions till you get it. Gabriel will bring you the information. Okay. So what I also want to do is I want to see the alchemical energy of the past that you're coming out of and the new you. And this may also help us work out for you kind of how likely it is that the long-term relationship you're meant to have is this one that's around you. So firstly, the alchemy energy that is around the past that you're coming out of. Mars, okay, all right. And then the alchemy energy for what you're moving into. Glass. Okay. This very much says there's something about this situation which is a bit overpowering. It's interesting that the Emperor came up. There's something about finding your own power, being the Empress rather than just the Queen of Earth to the Emperor. It's possible that for many of you, this is a very overwhelming, very powerful, in one way or another, very sort of strong, very sort of assertive energy that is around you. So it's understanding that. It's understanding that your power is just as important as the other person's power. What you are moving towards and what Spirit is saying here is perspective, getting the right perspective. That's what the speculum or the glass and the alchemical laboratory allows for perception to become clearer. You are going to get the information you need to make this decision, but you have to move away from this overpowering energy into one where you're a little bit detached and you look at it for whether or not it is what it promises to be. And it could go either way. I think it's going to depend on who's coming to this reading. So it could go either way. All right. So just to give you a little bit more guidance, we're going to get some astrology or numerology energy, and then we're going to finish with a kind of narrative arc around this for you. So firstly, some astrology energy, astrology or numerology to help. 1. Yeah, so this kind of depends. You could read that any number of ways. This could be the one. For some of you, it is saying it is the one, but you do need to go through this process so that you can believe it and stick it through, because it's going to be a bit tricky to get there, I would say. It could also be that you are meant to be the one and you decide. So I think, again, it's going to depend on who comes to the reading. Aquarius, yeah, the detachment. You have to detach first to decide whether you're going to commit. You have to look at this almost transpersonally. It's sort of like, it's interesting because we have Pisces. In the realm of Pisces, you're in the realm of the numinous, the collective unconscious, of all of that kind of thing. Aquarius is almost on the spiritual level on the opposite end of the continuum. It's more detached, it's more transpersonal. You do need to get that energy to work this out. And moon. Yeah, the moon. Watch the cycles of the moon. You probably will have sort of like periods of time where you get real revelation and real prophecy and so forth, and can connect a lot with Gabriel in the cycles of the moon. But this is emotional, but this is also why you need the detachment. And it's psychic. There is definitely a psychic link with this person. So it's very clear it's about a relationship like that. It's just the nature of the relationship and whether it's the right one. If that doesn't resonate, this wasn't the right reading for you. So I think, there's obviously something very emotional, but it's not going to tell us, because I think some people who come here, it is the right person, and for some it's not, and it's only you can work that out. So to finish off, I want to use the Divine Circus Oracle, and I just want to get a narrative arc, and this could either be a blessing coming in, it could be a kind of distillation of all of this energy, or it could be a challenge that Spirit thinks you need to kind of bear in mind as you move into the new you, which is the you where you make the choice that is right for you in a relationship. So what is the narrative arc to finish off? The Juggler. That's interesting. This suggests to me that part of the issue for you is that you have many things that you're juggling or trying to deal with on your plate at the moment, not just this relationship. And this relationship makes a lot of demands by the looks as well. Whether it's demands the other person literally makes, or whether it's the demands of trying to understand it. You're juggling a lot of things. You're trying to sort out a lot of things. This narrative arc is saying to you, picking up that sort of sense of allowing yourself a little bit of time out. Don't feel you have to respond to everybody's demands and everything immediately. Don't feel like you've got to be so much of a chameleon that you're all things to all people, and therefore you can't sort out who you really want to be. This is really give yourself time, prioritize, work out what it is that you really want. That's what you're being asked to do, because it's almost like you're being rushed by something. So if you step back and you go, no, at my time, at my pace, at my decision, and I will prioritize and work out of all these various baubles that I'm juggling in the air, what is the one I need to focus on first, and then second, and then third, then you can find your way through it. So pile 2, there's a lot of potential around this relationship, but I think what Spirit or the Divine is trying to say is that regardless if it's this one or another one, you are meant to do, this is part of your destiny, to be in a very loving, long-term, and I think somehow socially or in some other way elevating relationship. Like that is part of your pathway. So the important thing is to make sure that your romantic energy goes in the place that is right for you. So I hope that resonates. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Soul Star energy or Soul Star chakra, conscious connection. And so it's almost inevitable, whether you did that just by choice of number or just intuitively, or whether you did it consciously, that this is going to be about spiritual matters. And certainly the cards underneath here very much affirm this. So this is definitely my group, that the big new you and the energy is around spiritual development and spiritual mastery in many ways. It's very interesting energy here. So these cards are to represent what you've just been through and what Spirit wants to congratulate you for being through, and what you've learned and come from it and what you've realized from it. With the fact that we have Autumn is my last chance and Violet Angel is shadow energy, this suggests that you've been through something that really made you lose hope. You may, in fact, have gone through a dark night of the soul. You might have had a crisis in faith around something. You may be transitioning from one faith to another, or transitioning in some other way, which has made you feel lost and feel alone. And you've sort of dealt with, does this even work for me anymore? Like, this is very classic sort of things with somebody who's having a spiritual awakening, or even potentially a social or political awakening, and it's jarring. You've gone through this energy where there's been an aha moment where you're really not sure. But what Spirit wants to say is it's your own ancient soul, your own cosmic connection, your own spirituality that is being born here. You're a visionary. So this is like the crisis that occurs when almost the third eye really fully awakens, or the pineal gland really connects. There's been, out of a sense of a loss of faith and a loss of direction, you've actually found your soul direction. And Spirit wants to congratulate you for that, say that you know in a way. It's almost like what you've realised is you're a prophet. That's what I'm feeling. And I talk about this sometimes because I do think that there are a few people, at least in my collective, who are prophets, because this energy seems to come up quite often. But when I talk about prophecy, I am not talking about just, the occasional precognition, having a dream that comes true or whatever. Prophets really see what's happening in the future. They understand the past, they understand the patterns, and then they have the connection to the cosmos. And the three things come together and it creates prophecy. And it's often not an easy thing. It often does make you feel like this. There are those sort of like those sayings like a prophet is never honoured in his own land. There's stories of people like Cassandra, in mythology, who saw things, was a prophet, and was therefore exiled because people didn't want to hear it. So I feel like you've had an aha moment, an awakening on some level, which is reawakening of your ancient soul, your visionary stuff. And at first it's kind of knocked you around a bit. It's really made you wonder. But it's interesting here because autumn is my last chance, is saying don't lose hope. There is still something. And the way it's represented in this card is with an apple, which is like knowledge. This is the gift of knowledge, the gift of understanding. So that's very highly symbolic on that sort of level. And then we have Violet Angel, Breaking Dawn. You've started to see, you've started to understand it already. Spirit wants to say that you've had an aha moment that made you have a crisis of faith or a crisis of confidence within the environment you're in, but you've already, with your vision, as this opens this up, started to see what the next steps are, what you can do. So Spirit wants to say, the Divine wants to say, well done, and you're finding out who you are. But it was almost like you had to go through this. So I feel like many of you might have been born in a very traditional sort of religious sort of like, cultures or in a particular way of looking at spirituality, or even a particular way of looking at the world sort of, politically or something, and something has occurred. You've seen something, you've seen the consequences, and you can't live with that anymore. And it was discombobulating, really, but now you are starting to see the gift that is associated with it. So let's see how this is developing for you then. Grey, business, duty, obligation. Okay. And purple, dignity, nobility, prominence. Oh, okay, that's an interesting combination. And then in terms of astrology, Taurus, the material world, and Pluto, transformation. Wow, okay, all right. So you are prophetic, you are visionary, you are very, very psychic. No two ways about it. But where this is going to really manifest, I think, firstly is I think for many of you, there is a correlation between your spirituality and the powers of the world, the material powers of the world, business, politics, duty, obligation. You've started to understand that having seen something, you have to see it through. So, once you kind of know what the right thing is to do, it's very, very hard not to do it. So it's that kind of sense of you have had a sense of, okay, I actually have to use this ability somehow. And I think you're going to use it in a very material way, to look at material outcomes. And as a result, your power is going to rise exponentially. So what Spirit is saying is it's a reawakening, a kind of almost feels like a spiritual royal lineage, actually. Some of you may come from that and you may just be stepping back into it, but there's a very transformational thing coming, and it's about nobility, it's about prominence, but it's coming through the world of business. So it's like you're a very spiritual person, very old soul, a prophet. You bring all of that in, but you do it in some form of business or politics or something like that, and there is major transformation. You're here with a mission. So you had to have the aha moment, because you'd never have stepped into this. You'd never have stepped into this if you hadn't awakened this ability. Okay, so no pressure on you, Pole 3, as I sometimes say. This collective is amazing, I have to say. Really, really interesting and special people, I think, come to the readings, which is just lovely. So let's see what help we can get you. So let's see, firstly, with the tarot, what are you bringing with you from this past sort of revelation that you've had? 10 of Cups, 6 of Pentacles, Knight of Wands reversed, Page of Wands, 7 of Wands reversed. Okay, so right now, what you're bringing, what Spirit is sort of saying, and they want to congratulate you a bit more and get you just feel a little bit braver, because you're still kind of dealing with the aftershocks. But there is a sense of kind of emotional maturity that you are bringing. You could very well, if you are worried any of this is going to affect love relationships or family or whatever, that won't happen. That's your, the change and the transformation in you is not going to affect the love relationships in your life. So you bring those forward, and a love more generally for the community, for the world, and a real generosity of spirit. But from a position where you are meant to be in prominence, you're bringing that forward, this awareness of what you can do. You're bringing forward a tempered approach. The other thing I think that had to happen is you had to almost be disappointed in the world and start to understand why, to know that you can't just go full tilt, because you have a natural energy towards creation and just moving fast, but you are bringing a kind of a sober sort of sense of proportion to this. But Spirit says, that's fine, that's good, but don't lose the fire, because you could think, oh God, could things go wrong again? You need to let go of this a bit. This is something you are still kind of carrying with you a bit. So it's like you're just a little bit too conservative. And I don't mean this politically. I just mean it in terms of your response. It's a little bit too conservative, but you can sort of reawaken that energy. So let's see what you're meant to release or leave behind. Nine of Wands reversed. That makes sense. Five of Swords. Ace of Pentacles. Knowledge reversed. Okay. King of Swords reversed. Okay. For many of you, whatever this crisis was that brought this up, you've been around the misuse of knowledge, the misuse of power, maybe even the misuse of the law, or the like the kind of the rules of the world. You're moving away from a situation where there was a shock to the conscience, I think. So that is being released. False knowledge, false beliefs, like it's like taking the red pill, basically. You are doing that. You're not going forward with the blue pill anymore, so to speak. There was something that you were starting, but I think you're leaving it so that you can move into something better. But it was only just starting. You kind of, the prophecy came through quickly enough for you to actually understand that this wouldn't have been something that you should have fulfilled. You're also leaving behind the conflict around it and having to be so careful what you say. So if you're like the prophet who's not being listened to in their land, it's like you go to another land and you are listened to there. So you're letting go a lot of this false spirituality sort of emphasis, false politics, false whatever it is. So that's good. So what can you manifest now? Queen of Cups reversed. Fool reversed, Strength reversed, Four of Pentacles, Two of Swords. Okay, reversed. Maybe one of the things that caused the crisis for you is that you always led from your heart. And this would make sense for someone who would find a crisis in something that was very manipulative and very Machiavellian, which is what it feels like you're kind of leaving. But you are going to manifest a slightly more pragmatic way of looking at things. So you're not going to just come from the heart. You're going to take the learnings here, because you can see that if you don't do that, it diminishes your strength. So you've got an understanding of the correlation between what your heart says and then the pragmatic way of dealing with it, so that the message goes through strongly, so that you can build a foundation. You will do that. And if you have to take a bit of time in making the decision, you're going to allow yourself to do it, because you more than most people know, because you can see the consequences of things, that making decisions precipitously is not good. And in fact, I think there's something for most of you about this environment you're moving out of where that happened a lot. People just thought they knew it all and they really didn't, and made the wrong decisions. So you've seen and you've learned from that. You know how to build a more stable foundation. But you also know that if you live just in your heart, you diminish some of your strength. So you're meant to manifest sort of something that is pragmatic but stable, and you will take your time. So that's good. Okay, so let's get you some spirit team support for this, pile 3. So we're going to use almost a shamanic way of looking at it. We're going to get some power animals from the lower world. We're then going to get an entity or energy from the middle world, which is where the Fae and all the kind of different mythological characters live. And then we're going to get something from the archangel realm as well for you. So firstly, a couple of power animals to help you move into this power, prominence, transformative energy that comes from your deep spiritual understanding. So sea otter, transformation, yeah. It's going to help you with that Plutonian energy and transforming in the way that you need to transform. Because you might think, oh, I don't want to, shut off my heart a bit, but just it's something about the environment and how you're doing this that makes you need to do that too. Doesn't mean that you ultimately close it off or you can't be in a loving relationship, because you are bringing forward with you loving relationships. That's not the issue, but it's the environment that you're in that requires this sort of pragmatism. And red-crowned crane, loyalty. So that's good. You will have good people around you. And this brings a sense of loyalty, and you're loyal to what is right. You'll be loyal to the transformation, and those who come with you will be loyal to you. So that's good. Let's have a look at what the middle world might have for you, whether it be a help or maybe a challenge to be aware of. Shadow, depth. Okay, all right. So this is showing you do deal with shadow. You've been in shadow environments, like this is bringing you an awareness of shadow and your own shadow so that you don't become the thing you despise. And this is the other thing this is why you need to take a bit of time and not make it all about your strength, but make it about, what is the pragmatic right thing to do? What is the sustainable foundation? Because I think most of you, this ability is taking you into very powerful positions. So it is very important to be aware of your own shadows so that you don't, as I say, replicate the thing that you're trying to transform. It's very easy for that to happen, Pole 3, and it's not that you're a bad person if it does. That's why it's very, very important to always sort of like take a bit of time and make a decision around the bigger picture. Because the more power you have, the more there is sort of the seduction of power in numerous ways coming towards you. So let's see what archangels will help you. Shekinah, oh wow, okay. And Zadkiel, oh God, doesn't get much more than this. Shekinah is the ultimate divine mother, so the ultimate sort of feminine creation principle, ultimate wisdom. So there is definitely that sort of sense of rightly connected, right to that sort of level of the sort of understanding, the intuition and all those sort of things, and a very righteous sort of energy, a very nourishing sort of energy around you. Zadkiel is effectively a sense of balance. It picks up that Plutonian energy because it is about transmutation, it is about change, but it is bringing it in with mercy for yourself and for others. So there is a very nurturing energy to what you're bringing in and a very balanced energy. So that also will help you with the shadow. It will help you understand and be able to forgive the shadow in yourself, because we all have shadow. And some of the shadow, in fact, made you doubt. So I think this is going to bring you inspiration and balance and transmutation to not let you doubt. Because you will have people with you and you are meant to transform, and it's not an easy pathway. You're transforming others as well. It's not just yourself. Okay, so what I also want to do before we get some guidance from the stars and numerology for you is just use an alchemy card for each stage. So what you're coming from and what you're moving to. And it's particularly important for you, I think, because transformation is so much about this. I think you've had an inner transformation and awakening, and you're supposed to help others have this now. So let's see what alchemy has to offer from what you're coming from, Neptune, and what you are heading towards. Reddening. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So Neptune is highly psychic, sort of connected to Pisces and so forth, all that sort of energy of the numinous. You're learning, you are coming from that aha moment that you have these abilities and so forth, and you're very psychically attuned and very, very cosmically connected. But you're meant to do something with it. The reddening is bringing it into the body. So I think in this case, it's bringing it into the material world, into who you are in the world, into the power structures that you're in the world. And this is about kind of like really understanding that spirituality is not just something to be separate. It's not enough to be able to see what's coming. You actually have to be in the thick of it and having an influence on what's coming. So you're not meant to be a monk sitting on a mountaintop, no matter how appealing that might seem. You're meant to be in the world, living this in the world, helping the world to transform in whatever that means to you, at whatever level it is operating. Okay, let's get you some star power. Let's get you some astrology and numerology to also help you. The other thing actually I'm getting on this is that Neptune can sometimes be a bit unclear. So there's a clarity in what you feel in your body. I think for some of you, some of your psychic gifts and prophetic gifts you feel bodily, and you're going to feel it more and more. So pay attention to clear senses that are in the body and your gut instinct. Okay. Astrology or numerology for you. Feminine. Yeah, there's something about the divine feminine. It may be that for many of you, you've been in sort of like, political systems or work organizations or things like that were very divine masculine. This is about bringing in the balance, really, in the transformation. Mars, but taking action nevertheless. There's almost like the sort of sense of like proving that there are actions and ambitions that the feminine side of things have, that it's not all for the men, so to speak. And Saturn, yeah, the powers of the world. Shifting really big structures, powerful structures, takes time. But Saturn also is the god of time, and this is the god of prophecy. You see things at a very high order and at a very long range. So you see the impact of like actions now and how they echo in time. And there's this sort of like wanting to nurture something better there. Very powerful. Okay, so to finish off pile 3, I'm just going to use the Divine Circus Oracle, and I'm looking for almost a narrative arc now for you. So this could be a blessing, or it could be a challenge that you need to be aware of. But it's meant to sort of represent something of this transformation that you've already done in yourself, which the divine congratulates you for, but it's almost a template or prototype for something you're meant to do more in the world. So you have Divine Disguise. I think this operates on 2 levels. Classically, this card is about where something is coming and you have a sense of it and you think, well, I don't want that. So there may well be that sort of sense. You may already have been through that, like suddenly you sort of shown all these things and it was the last thing you wanted to see. But it's like this is saying that's a blessing in disguise. You're going to learn more about yourself, and I think you already have, and there's going to be more of those sort of things coming forward. I think though in this energy too, I think it's also saying that you will sometimes need to be a bit in disguise. Because as I say, a prophet is not honoured in their own land. There is how you get this message across without kind of getting people against you. I'm always minded of the fact that I read once about Machiavelli that, he wrote The Prince, which is, one of the sort of outstanding pieces of work around political intrigue and how to survive in, medieval courts, which is about as big a political intrigue as you could have. But I'm pretty sure from what I read that he died in poverty and or in prison. I'm not sure whether he was actually in prison when he died, but what the particular historian was saying is it's sort of like there's a risk in telling a prince how to be a prince, because on one level the advice is good, but on another level it offends the ego of the prince. So it was just a really interesting observation. So I think you have to find this way in this environment to give the information in a way that is digestible for people, that they can actually take on, because there's a lot of power and balance that's necessary for this for you. So I think it operates on both ways. The very thing that you kind of almost made you lose hope is the thing that's going to be your North Star for who you're truly meant to be. But it's as tricky as a medieval court. That's what I feel for you. But I absolutely think you've got what it takes to do it. It's just being aware of that. So I hope that resonates for you, pile 3. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.